A really funny story that I love to share whenever possible is one that while I'm reading it, I think some of you are going to go, this sounds like a lot like another book I know. The story I'm going to read is Somebody and the Three Blairs by Marilyn Tolhurst with illustrations, pictures by Simone Abel. And we are reading this thanks to the Orchard Books Publishing Company. One Sunday morning in a small house on the edge of town, Mr. Blair, Mrs. Blair, and Baby Blair were sitting down to breakfast. "It's such a fine morning," said Mr. Blair. "Let's take a walk in the park." "Oh, what a good idea," said Mrs. Blair. "Feed the ducks," said Baby Blair. So they took their coats and a bag of breadcrumbs and set out for the park. While they were gone, somebody came to the door. Somebody knocked. And when no one answered, somebody tiptoed in. He sniffed and sniffed. He looked at the breakfast table. "Ugh, this food is too dry," said somebody. "Oh, this food is too noisy," said somebody. "But this food is just right." He looked for somewhere to sit down. "Oh, this seat is too hard," said somebody. "Ooh, this seat is too wobbly," said somebody. "But this seat is just right." He looked for something to play with. "Oh, this game is too noisy." "This game is too cold." "But this game is just right." He looked for something to drink. "This rain is too hot." "This pond," "That's not a pond," "is too small," said somebody. "But this stream is just right." He looked for somewhere to sleep. "Ooh, this bed is too big," said somebody. "Yikes, this bed is too small," said somebody. "But this bed is just right." When Mr. and Mrs. Blair and Baby Blair came back from the park, they saw the breakfast table. "Somebody's been eating my crunchies," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been eating my Crispies," said Mrs. Blair. "All gone," said Baby Blair. They looked around the room. "Somebody's been sitting in my chair," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been sitting on my chair," said Mrs. Blair. "Busted," said Baby Blair. They went into the kitchen. "Somebody's been emptying the cupboard," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody's been raiding the fridge," cried Mrs. Blair. "Naughty," said Baby Blair. They went upstairs. "Flood!" shouted Mr. Blair. "Help!" shouted Mrs. Blair. "Lotta water!" shouted Baby Blair. They looked in the bedroom. "It's a burglar," said Mr. Blair. "It's a monster," said Mrs. Blair. "It's a big teddy bear," said Baby Blair. "It's escaped from the zoo," said Mr. Blair. "It's escaped from the circus," said Mrs. Blair. "It's escaped down a drain pipe," said Baby Blair. "Somebody phone the police," said Mr. Blair. "Somebody call the fire department," said Mrs. Blair. "Somebody gone home," said Baby Blair. "Bye-bye, come again and play tomorrow." The end. And I think you might guess what that kind of sounds like. Were you thinking Goldilocks and the Three Bears? Awesome.